Welcome to the section on decorators. Let's consider this example. Suppose we have a system which permits users get their IDs based on their email address and also get their subscription status based on the same email address. So we could have a dictionary. So we would have your user dictionary, which is this. Now we just fix some email addresses. So we will say, for example, a@gmail.com, and this a@gmail.com is linked to an ID of say 2 or 34, and then to a subscription status of true. Then the next person could be say B. Let's copy this. We have that. There we go. That's fine. So here we have b@gmail.com. Then here we have say 39. Then subscription status true. True. C, we have that. Say 14. The status is false. Then we have Z. The status is the ID. Let's say the ID is 0, and then here the status is false. Okay, so we have this system, or we have this database where we could link the email address to a corresponding subscription status and ID. We could print out this user dictionary. There we go. We can now define two functions, where in the first function permits us to get the ID based on the email address. So here we have the ID based on the email. We have user of email, and then firstly let's see how we're gonna get this. We have this user dictionary right here. So once we have the user dictionary, if we have an email, say a@gmail.com, we see that output in this gives us this value right here. Now if we have D, for example, or if we have F, we see there's this key error because that's not in the dictionary. If we have D, there we go. Now once we have this, we could select the ID or the subscription status. So with this get ID function, we could do this and get the ID. So simply let's just return this right here. So we return that and then run it. Then we define the get status, which gets the email, and then returns the user dictionary, email, and 1. So that's it. So we could get a status and we could get the ID. But before getting the ID or getting the status, we want to be sure that this user is actually in our database. So we could create another function, authenticate, which gets the email, and then which returns the boolean, which says whether the user is in the platform or not, or in this database or not. So we take the email. So we have if email, we return email in user dictionary. Now if you put, for example, let's say we have a@gmail.com in user dictionary, see we have true. If you put this, see we have false. So basically what we're doing here, we're returning this. It's gonna be a true or a false. So this is how we authenticate to be sure that the email we're passing in actually is in this dictionary. And since for the get ID and the get status we need to do this authentication, we have to come in here. Let's just define this before. So we get in here and then we say if authenticate email, we return this, else we return user not found. So there we go. Now we do the same for the get status. Here we have if authenticate, pass the email, we return that, else we return user not found. Now suppose we have 100 of such methods like this get status and get ID, where we'll be making use of the authenticate function. You see that this becomes very inefficient as we're repeating this same piece of code every time. The way we could solve this problem is by creating another function, say decorate. Let's insert this below. We create this function decorate, which takes in any of these functions. So we could pass a function in this function and the email address. So we have a function, we also pass in the email address. Then in this decorate function, we do the authentication. So we call on the authenticate method, we have the email address, and then we have the function which could be say get ID of email now called. So what we will do here is, since our decorate method is taking in another method which could be any of these methods here, we're gonna have f. So it will just be any of these methods, f, or could especially write method, method. So this takes in the method, and then this method is called on email. But before calling this email, we could put this authentication or this auth boolean, which says whether it's authenticated or not. And so every time we just have auth. So here we have if auth, and here we have if auth. Note that we've passed in the auth before the email, so here we need to modify this to auth. There we go. So now we're working with this decorate method, which takes in another method. We could run this, and here we could return known. So that's it. Or we just return, we could return method actually. So here we could return method auth email. Let's take this off. We need to get the output of the particular method. Let's take this off. We have decorate of say get ID, and now get ID takes in the auth and then the email. But then as you could see from this, the auth is not yet defined, because this auth is defined in here after calling on the authenticate method. This means that we need to modify the way we've designed this methods, which will permit us call on the get ID or call on the get status or whatever method while taking into consideration the authentication. And to do this, we need to get rid of the fact that we need to actually pass in this auth inside each and every one of these methods. So we need to modify this get ID, for example. Modifying this get ID and not taking in the auth simply means if we have this authenticate right here, we would have if the auth is, that's if the user or the email is in the database. So if auth, we return the method email, and else we return the user not found. So that's it. Now we're gonna return this, return, then in here we don't need to return this anymore. We just have to return the dictionary, or rather the ID for this case. So here we return the ID, and in here we return the status. So there we go. Take this backward, and that's fine. Now we have this ID and the status. So here we're gonna have if auth, we get into the method, or we take this into consideration, else we have the user not found. So we'll see now that we're creating these two methods without having to always define or always do authentication in each of these methods, because we are able to create this decorate function which does authentication, and if there's authentication we get into the method, or if it's authentified we get into the method, else we return the user not found. So now let's run again. Now this time around we take this email to be say a@gmail.com, take this off and run. We actually have to separate this like this, and that's fine. Okay, here we have the ID given to us. Obviously this has been authenticated, and then because it has been authenticated we are able to obtain the ID from the dictionaries, or from this dictionary. Now we get into let's take another example. Say this, we have user not found. We see that everything works fine. Now if we look at this way of making or calling this get ID, or say get status, we have this error. Let's take off this here. If we look at this way of calling the get ID or the get status, let's take get ID, we'll see that this doesn't actually look like this is a method call, or it doesn't look like we're having this method and then this method is having as parameter or as argument this email. So let's modify again this decorate method right here. To do that, we are going to create a wrapper. Let's take this here. We're going to create a wrapper function in here. So we have this wrapper function which takes in the email. Now we don't need to specify this email again here. We have the method, we have this wrapper function, takes in the email, and then it actually does a job. But when we get into this decorate method, we simply return the wrapper. So here we have the decorate, we get into this, we return the wrapper takes in email, and then it goes or does this as usual. So let's run this again. We have that. Now let's take this off, or better still, let's call it. So let's have this, and then close here. So it's now it looks like we're having this method which is calling, or which is taking this argument, this email address. Let's comment this for now, run, and here's the output we get. The next modification we shall make in order to get the right output is by taking this off here. So now we having decorate, we having the function itself, and then we having this get stat. So we have this variable get stat, and then we call on get stat. So inside this now we have the a@gmail.com, for example. So run that, and there we go. So this is how we create a function or method decorator which permits us carry out the authentication without having to define authentication for all the different methods which need this authentication defined. So if we have 100 methods, we just need to define these methods now, and we'll let this decorate function do the authentication job. Then another modification we could do to the syntax is by simply adding here this decorator actually. So add this decorate, run this, and now we don't need to call this, we don't need to pass this method in the decorate method again. All we need to do now is just to say, okay, we have this get status. So basically now we have get status. We could take this off now. We have get status, we call this, and that's fine. So this is actually the endpoint. We are able to define this, or we are able to call on this method, pass in the email address, and then the authentication is done automatically. If we have some stuff here, it's a user not found, without having to explicitly define authentication in each and every method here. So now we could have get ID, we have email, get ID, let's pass in say b@gmail.com. we have b's ID 39, which is this. Now we could define another method. Let's insert below, let's define a method which we shall decorate. We'll define the method get username. So we'll have this method get username. We're taking the email, and then we return the user dictionary email. We'll take in 2 here. So for each of this, we're gonna define a username. So here we could have a username A1. Here we have B1. Here we have C1, and then here we have D1. So run that, and now we could simply do a call here. We have get username of b@gmail.com. So that's it. We now are able to do this without having to define the authentication. We could do this too, and we have user not found. One last modification: we may have a case where we will not only be taking in the email here, we may take in the email and some other parameter. So we don't always want to have those same exact parameters get into the ID, or into the get ID method, the same get into the get status, or the same get into the get username. So in that case, we could have, say, 2 parameters getting in like this. And to solve that problem, all we need to do now is, instead of specifying that we're going to take the email, in this case it suffices to specify like this, but instead of specifying that we need to get only the email, now we could have the arguments and the keyword arguments passed. So this will permit us specify an unknown number of parameters. So it will make our code, or will make us to do this decoration now in a more flexible manner. So there we go. We now replace this email with that, and that's fine. So running this, you see you still have the same results. We have this error because we took this parameter in. Take that off. Run that. You see we have the same results. In this get username here, we could define another parameter, say the OK parameter. I would define it to be OK. So we'll just simply add that OK. Let's run this. User not defined. Let's have A. You see we have A1, the username, and then we've attached OK. So this works now because we are able to pass in many more parameters in this method.